Welcome to Barca News. It is February 21st, 2026. And Jordi Major has sent a burofax to the CTA threatening a lawsuit. Also, Barcelona are now considering renewing Marc Bernal's contract. And finally, Saudi Arabia looking to convince Marc Casado to make the jump. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Boo. We'll begin this video with the news that one of Barcelona's socis, Jordi Major, has sent a burofax that was also signed by other club socis to the Technical Committee of Referees, or the CTA, threatening a lawsuit. Now, a burofax in Spain is kind of like a legal document that you serve on someone, telling them to stop doing something or threatening lawsuit, something along those lines. It was kind of like the burofax that Messi sent to Bartomeu when he was notifying him that he was going to be canceling his contract. But anyways, Jordi Major, alongside other club socies, have sent a burofax, a legal document, to that Technical Committee of Referees, threatening lawsuit if they don't stop making such huge mistakes and robbing Barcelona. This, of course, comes on the back of, well, some pretty bad refereeing against Barcelona in the matches against Atletico Madrid and Girona and many others. And again, Jordi Major threatening lawsuit if things don't change. And this is where I say the following. Now, I'm very glad that someone is finally doing something about this, because that was my number one complaint. You know, Jean Laporta would always issue statements, and I would always be like, great, I agree with your statements. That's amazing. But when are we going to stop talking and actually start doing something? So I'm glad someone is willing to do something about this. But this is where we're going about it a little bit wrong. And why do I say that? Because if we keep complaining about what the referees are doing to us, it's going to seem more like that we're just crying about refereeing and we're just trying to justify our defeats. I think a better way to handle this is to have other clubs involved, and a better way would have been for other clubs to sign this burofax, because this horrible refereeing is not just only affecting Barcelona, it's affecting other clubs in La Liga as well. I mean, every week there's also really terrible calls against other clubs, mid-table, bottom-table clubs, that we don't hear much about because, you know, nobody really cares if Girona get robbed or if Real Betis get robbed, right? And, you know, a better way to highlight this rampant problem that's called Spanish refereeing would be to, well, join forces with other clubs. Have other clubs also sign our statements. Have other clubs sign our burofax. Have other clubs issue their own statements mentioning cases where they were robbed. I think that would be a much more stronger position rather than just saying, oh, look, we're getting robbed, boo-hoo, boo-hoo, us, but it's actually happening to other clubs too. Not Real Madrid, but other clubs too. So I think a better way to handle this is not only to issue statements, but to take action and to do it in combination with other La Liga clubs, because everybody's getting screwed, for the exception of Real Madrid, by this horrible referee. Anyways, let's move on to the next bit of news, because ladies and gentlemen, in Barcelona are now preparing a contract renewal for Marc Bernal. Now, Marc Bernal has been getting more and more minutes during this second half of the season, now that he is, you know, coming back from that very serious injury that saw him out for an entire year. So far, he has played 201 minutes in 11 matches, during which he has scored 1 goal, won 15 duels, and had a pass accuracy of 93%. Now, Marc Bernal did renew his contract last year, extending it until 2029 with a 500 million euro release clause. That was kind of like Barcelona saying, hey, we know you're hurt. We know you're going to be out for a year, but we still believe in you. We still trust in you. So here's a contract renewal. Now that Bernal is playing more and more, once again, we're seeing that Bernal is definitely a generational talent, someone that's going to be, you know, one of the best midfielders in the world. And as such, Barcelona are now getting ready to renew him again. This time, instead of like, hey, don't worry, we trust you, to more like, hey, we know you're going to be a star. So here's a better contract, which I'm sure will include a higher release clause and a higher salary, because right now, Marc Bernal still has kind of like a very low salary, an academy player kind of salary. Now, negotiations are expected to take place over the next few weeks. And, well, it's expected that, it's going to go smoothly because the player wants to stay, the club wants him to stay. So it's just a matter of agreeing on numbers. Now, on to that next bit of news, because speaking of Barcelona midfielders, it's been revealed that Saudi Arabia are circling and trying to sign and convince Marc Casado to make the jump. Now, it's reported that the Saudi fund, because if you don't know by now, the way Saudi Arabia signs, they have a fund that signs players and then they send them out to different teams. This is like a state-owned fund. But the Saudi fund that's in charge of signing players is reportedly getting ready a 40 million euro offer to try to convince Barcelona to negotiate for Marc Casado. And as far as the player, they're trying to convince him to make the jump to Saudi Arabia by offering him, of course, a much, much higher salary that he's currently receiving, where he's currently is receiving one of the lowest salaries currently at Barcelona. Now, the Saudi fund are reportedly trying to schedule a meeting with Marc Casado's agent, Jorge Mendes, in order to start, making movements. But as we know, Casado would prefer to play at Barcelona. And of course, as I told you a few days ago, Barcelona are actually getting ready to renew the contract of Marc Casado, which expires in 2028, with negotiations expected to take place over the next few weeks. Now, I personally would not sell Marc Casado. I think he provides us with a different profile that we don't have on the team. And I don't know. And even if I do decide to sell him, I don't know if I would sell him for 40 mil. I think from Saudi, we could get probably more. Also, even if Casado decides to leave, I wouldn't want him to go to Saudi. I think he's too young to be making that jump. I think another European team would be a much better fit. I think Saudi's a better fit for players who, they're ending their career and they're getting ready to make one last big contract, to cash out and sail into the sunset. But anyways, that's the news. Let me know what you guys think. Would you sell Casado for 40 mil to Saudi Arabia? Let me know down below in the comment section. Now, speaking of midfielders, we have to talk about another midfielder. This one is not a Barcelona player, but has been linked to Barcelona, and it's no other than Rodri, the 29-year-old Ballon d'Or winner. Yes, you heard that right, Vinicius Jr., the Ballon d'Or winner, Rodri, probably the best pivot in the entire world, whose contract expires with Manchester City in 2027. And there's a lot of talks about how Rodri will most likely leave alongside Pep Guardiola once Pep Guardiola leaves as well. But the question, of course, has been where he will go next. Now, there's been a lot of linking Rodri to Real Madrid, saying, he wants to go there to be the next Kroos, since, Real Madrid's midfield is an absolute joke. And Garcia Mendieta has said, or Kaika Mendieta has said the following. By the way, Mendieta is someone who's very close to Rodri and has said, Rodri would not go to Madrid if he ends up leaving Man City. He would instead go to Barcelona. Now, this is what Mendieta had to say. When he does leave Man City, I could see it being an agreement with the club. There is also a big connection there with Barcelona. There was Chiqui Begiristain there, and of course, Pep Guardiola. Pep and Begiristain were together at Barcelona, and of course, now they're at Man City. But it would still be up to Rodri personally. I still think it would be hard for him to join Real Madrid. So, Mendieta, who's a close friend of Rodri, saying if Rodri does end up leaving Man City, he would go to Barcelona over Real Madrid. Now, Mendieta also added that he doesn't see Rodri leaving because he has a strong connection to Man City. So again, this is if Rodri ends up leaving, he would prefer Barca over Madrid. So this is hypothetical. But of course, my question to you is, would you want to sign Rodri? I think, of course, Rodri would be an amazing signing. He is the best pivot in the world. And can you imagine him with Bernal? I think what a great teacher to Bernal if Rodri comes, can mentor Bernal. And we already know Bernal is going to be our next Busquets. Can you imagine Bernal being mentored by Rodri? I think it would be an absolute win. But of course, there is the problem that we have a million midfielders. But again, this is all hypothetical. This is if Rodri ends up leaving. There's a good chance that he just stays at Man City. Anyways, let's end today's video with some statements by Thierry Henry, the Barcelona and Arsenal legend and France's legend, just a legend of football, period. But Thierry Henry has made some statements about Barcelona's need to sign a center forward, which I have to say I 100% agree with. This is something I've been saying on the channel for quite some time. And while this is what Thierry Henry had to say, Barcelona need a real number 9. a top-level striker. I'm referring to formidable scorers such as Victor Osimhen, Erling Haaland, or Harry Kane. Proven finishers, not prospects. When you have a talent like Lamine Yamal who makes passes like that, you have to score. It's simple. At this level, one chance is enough. I've seen games where too many chances were wasted. At Barcelona, that can't happen. That's what makes the difference between being competitive and being champion. And I 100% wholeheartedly agree with Thierry Henry. This is something I've been saying on the channel for quite some time, is that we need a number 9. When you're creating so many chances and we can't score them because we have someone like Ferran Torres, who people try to convince me that he should be the future number 9. It's like, what the fuck are you smoking? But anyways, we need a number 9. Not a prospect, not someone who can play in that position. A true number 9, someone in their prime, someone with experience, someone that can hit the ground running. Not Eta Youngs of the world. No, a real number 9. That's what we need. If you don't want to listen to me, listen to one of the greatest players in the history of the sport, Thierry Henry. Anyways, that is all, ladies and gentlemen. I did go live 2 other times before this one, so there's 3 videos for you to watch. Make sure you do watch them all. Plenty of news. Also, I'm doing a watch along tomorrow for the match against Levante. I hope to see you there. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, and as always, Barça.